Hello, everyone. I guess we already have 21 people right now. Like, who are watching live. That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we will start in few minutes. So Jan is already connected with us, and we are waiting for a few more people. Like, let's check. Let's wait for 1 more minute, maybe. Yeah.
Yes,
Take
your time. I won't run away. I promise.
So for the people who are already there, who joined us, like I want to tell you that this talk will be a really good talk. Like Jan is already connected with a community like so much. So like this will be really interesting one, and he can tell us a lot of things how you can contribute to the community or maybe the RxJS and anything like whatever you want to come up with. You can just like we can have a meeting room after this his talk, so you can talk to him one to one, so that would be really great experience. So like stay there with us.
Yeah. A lot of expectation on me. Thank you for that.
No, so you are doing really great, and I really do appreciate those things like you are giving to community.
Thank you. I really enjoy doing it. That's
yeah. Okay, so I think we should start, right?
Whatever works for you.
Yes, I think it's right time to do that.
Okay, so let's start. So like I will just quickly introduce with what RxJS is. So I guess like Jan can do that like better than me. So I'll just quickly introduce how like Jan-Niklas he is doing a lot of things into the community, and right now he is into the core team member of this RxJS team, and he is like a way better, like he is more into the this RxJS documenting, so you can just go and ask him to help for anything else. And also he was there in India last year in NG India 2019, so we do have a lot of fun over there, and we also like went to Taj Mahal, and we really had a fun at that time. And also like Jan is more into like having this he is into that Angular Nation. He have his free course videos over there also, so maybe if you want to check those out, so just you can just go and like we will share a link with you, so maybe you can try to like try those things also. And also like he is really like I really like his work, whatever he is doing for a community. So thank you so much. And like before we start, I'll just quickly introduce you with this our meetup. Like we are doing under this meetup is under Indore Technical Community. So what is exactly Indore Technical Community is? So actually it is like we started a community over here in Indore. Like it was in I guess 2016, right? Correct me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong. So
we had a
with
first.
that, yeah. So yeah.
That's
So yeah.
amazing.
So this community, yeah. So
Sorry.
it actually we started everything. It was a offline thing, right? We did really like good offline events over there inside that, and right now it is really like good opportunity because we can connect more. Like we can connect more people like speakers over there through online. So I really like find it to like connect with you guys who are really into the technical thing and can help our community. So that's really cool. And so in the technical community, like we are trying to connect, and we have done a lot of events like in this Angular, and we have done React, and like all other this Docker thing. So like I would like ask you, like if you guys want to connect with this, and we are doing a lot of things in that, so you guys can connect through this meetup channel or maybe Facebook, Twitter, and that can help you like in future. And also before we start, we have really cool thing with us. We are going to organize one event, which is this Angie Girls event. So it is a Angular for girls, and it will be a full day workshop like 9 to 5, and we will be doing it will be a live code. And if you guys are like any girl want to like join this as a participant, they can come and join it. We will have a particular schedule, and we will try to create an application inside that, and anyone can come as a mentor, so they can join us anywhere. And also like I want you guys to share these details with anyone from your, like maybe the colleague, or maybe anyone from your college, or some girl who might have interest in this thing. It is really good, and we have already done 2 events, which like in one event at the indoor level, which was Angie Girls Indoor. So it was really good, and we did get a really good feedback. And also like few girls which were there as a participants, they joined us in the next events as a mentor, so they learned a lot from that. So I can really say that. So you guys can join, and please help us to share this with the people who might have interested in that. So you like Gaurav, can you share that link? Yeah, so it is also there, that in this below link, so you guys can register over there, and like link shown over there on your screen. Okay, so I guess we are all good to start. Maybe
Okay.
Jan, you can take over now.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay.
Yep.
So now let me put out professional mode, and boom, here we go. Yeah, so welcome to my talk, Practice Makes Perfect when it comes to RxJS. And this is not like the basic introductory that you've always been missing for RxJS or something like that. What I want to do with this talk is show you the most efficient approach to learn RxJS. And I will do this by live coding a lot of stuff. And by having this approach, newcomers will see the benefits of RxJS, but also people that are already familiar with RxJS will see some new approaches, maybe new operators, something like that. So this is the idea of the talk. And in the end, I'm also going to share some of the new stuff that we are planning for the next version of RxJS. Before I really start with the talk, I want to quickly speak to the Black Lives Matter organization or demonstration that are going on right now. Because this is pretty much what I've been doing recently, like educate myself. And I really want to encourage you to do this on your own too, because racism is definitely not just an US problem. It's a worldwide problem. We have to deal with this in Europe too, and I'm pretty sure in Asia and pretty much every country in some extent have to deal with racism. So I really want to encourage you, educate yourself and help your colleagues, team members, and stuff like that to do the same, just to improve the general health of the community. Full stop. Okay, back to the talk. So when you learn RxJS for the first time, it's kind of a rough start. That's pretty much how I got into the core team, because I had no clue about RxJS before and wanted to get more into that. But oh, I'm a dum-dum. Okay. Yes. So pretty much when you start, it feels like riding a bicycle. So you might start off kind of well. It kind of works, but at some point of time, you will hit a tree. And at least that's what it was for me, learning to ride a bicycle, but also learn using RxJS. So what helped me with learning to ride a bicycle is actually practicing. And after a certain while, it more looked like this, even though I'm still astonished by what this little girl is doing here. This is amazing. But this is pretty much how it feels getting more professional with RxJS. You feel really comfortable, can implement difficult features with it, and in a very elegant way. So there's always this continuous cycle of practicing and understanding in RxJS. Every time you practice something, you will understand more and more and more. And at some point of time, there's this click moment. So many people that I talked to had this one point of time with RxJS where there was like this click moment where it was like, oh, this is the way RxJS works. Okay, now I got it. And from there on, you will notice that you will really grow really fast with it. So before we dive deeper into that, 2 more words about me, even though I was already really well introduced. So I'm a self-employed front-end consultant. I'm member of the RxJS core team since mid of 2018, I think, something like that. I usually also stream twice a week on Twitch about coding-related stuff at Craft Program TV. I'm also organizing an Angular-related meetup because that's pretty much what I do for a living, Angular development. And if you don't want to talk to me about Angular or RxJS, that's completely fine for me. I also like to talk about steak and barbecue and whiskey. So if you're into that and don't want to talk about code-related stuff, I'm definitely open. I can talk for ages about whiskey especially. So when you learn RxJS for the first time, this is kind of other words that you get thrown at you, that you kind of have the impression you should know all of them, you should learn about all of them, and you need to apply all of them, which is entirely not true. Actually, you can be really professional with RxJS just by understanding the basic concepts and applying like up to 10 operators maybe. For sure, there are some edge cases where you have to learn more, but to get into it, to get a starting point, this is way too much. And what I want to stress here is something that a really, really wise man once told me. Observable don't cause problems. Establishing a reactive mindset does, because this is the problem that many developers are facing. It's not like, okay, how can I leverage this and that operator to use what I'm doing or to do what I want to do. The problem is, okay, I have this problem. How do I solve it in a reactive manner? And you can kind of compare learning RxJS to learning a different or foreign language. So for me as a German, my first foreign language was English. And if you just take a look at some of the words, this is just a quick example. This is not like an extensive overview of how German is different to English. But what I want to show here is that you have some words that are similar, like hello and hello. Those are the same, have the same meaning. And just from the spelling and everything, you could kind of guess it, right? There are also, for historic reasons, words that are completely the same. Code and kindergarten are entirely the same. And also there are words that if you try to translate them directly, one that is speaking English won't understand you. It doesn't make sense for him. So in Germany, we have that saying of an Ohrwurm. You probably know that, even though you don't have that very word for it. But if a song is stuck in your head and you keep singing it over and over again because you're absolutely into that in that moment, that's what we call an Ohrwurm. But if I would go to an English person and say like, oh yeah, I have an earworm right now, he would be like, ugh, this is so gross. What do you want from me? And actually it's similar to reactive programming because many people are used to imperative programming due to the way education is built around that and stuff like that. And yeah, so just from taking a look at of the stuff that we're used to, I now use JavaScript methods on the left side, or some JavaScript mechanism. But that's not really the point here. The point is just from looking at the code, most people would understand or be able to apply the reactive pendant to that. What is kind of weird is this thingy of, okay, now I have to subscribe to that. What? And I promise you, if you're getting more into RxJS, and at some point of time you will have like, okay, I now want to apply an if statement here. How am I going to do this? This is not working. RxJS is broken. This is pretty much like the gist of that, even though it's just a different concept that you have to apply. And I already said it at the beginning, so I kind of spoiled you, but the best way to learn thinking reactively is practicing it over and over again. And we are software developers, so the best way to practice is doing some coding stuff. And I hope I have my IDE still open. Oh, so what I want to develop here is a carousel application, which you can use your mouse for to go to the next slide. Maybe. What is going on? Okay. We will see how this is working. But you can also use keyboard navigation, and after 5 seconds delay, it should automatically go to the next picture. So this is what we are going to develop. What the fuck is going on with? Weird. Okay. You didn't saw that. Let's take a look how the code is. So I will share also the link to the code later on. It's pretty much all wrapped in an Angular component. There's not a lot of Angular related logic going on. So even though you might not know Angular, you will probably be able to understand it and enhance it. So the first thing we are going to start with is this kind of swipe gesture. Like you're clicking a picture, going to the left or the right side, and if you hit a certain threshold, like you moved a certain amount of pixels, then it should go to the next picture. So therefore, because I wanted to support touch and mouse gestures, what I prepared so far is this touch start point, which is just the trigger for saying like, okay, the click happened. From there on, look how many pixels move to one side, and then see is the threshold hit. So we have this. Don't be irritated by this prevent. Oh, there's no issue going on. So we'll see. Okay, so we have our touch start. And what we want to do is saying, okay, when this touch start happens, please take a look at all the move gestures. So what we do here is say switch map. Or I also prepared this touch move. We will take a deeper look into that later too. But what we need for that is the start event, just to have the initial X coordinate. So what we do is with switch map, we subscribe to touch move and pass the start event there. Yes, something like that. So let's improve this touch move, because right now it's just subscribing to the touch move and mouse move event, but don't do anything further. So the first thing I want to do after fixing the indentation here is applying the observe on operator. Observe on, so usually this touch move would emit every time a move happens, which if you once subscribe to a move event, this happens fairly often. With observe on and passing the animation frame scheduler, we can say like, okay, please just schedule the value emission every time the browser is in idle, because that's the time when the animation frame event is happens. So this is a minor performance tweak. What else we need to do is apply the take until operator, and to say with take until, we want to say like, okay, please just get all the move events until a mouse up or touch end event happens. So what we do here is say take until touch end or mouse up. And to combine those two together, we use the race operator here. We could also use merge. There would not be a difference in this manner, but from a semantic point of view, race is kind of better. Kind of better. Oh, Jesus, language is difficult. Kind of better. So we say from event, pass the native element that I store in a constant already, and say touch end and mouse or mouse up. Okay. The next thing we need to do is actually calculate the delta. So from the point of time where we have our start event to the point where we stopped the mouse movement. And with the X position that came out of that, we want to later on see, okay, is this bigger than the threshold? So I can show it here if I just, what the fuck is going on? So if I just move like a little bit and just go back to have like a certain amount of fault tolerance, whatever. So, and because I'm not able to write that fluently out of my head, I prepared a helpful method for that. This is also the way how you would write custom RxJS operators. I will not go into this really deep because there are several YouTube videos about that. But now I can say calculate delta has the start event and the items constant. Items is just a representation of the image elements on the screen. And the last thing we need to do is because now our swipe would emit every move event and calculate the delta for it. What we just want is to get the latest value. So, and therefore, we use take last. So this will emit the last value that was emitted before the observable completes, which is ensured by this take until here. And say take last one. And now we have our swipe gesture. Because we later on want to implement left and right arrow key events, we also have like a general events observable. So I will for now say, okay, for now, events is the same as swipe. I will enhance it later on. And later on, I have this merge operator here to say like, okay, don't really care if we have a swipe or a timer observable. Timer is later on the automatic representation of our interval that's going on to automatically go to the next slide. And what this tab is just doing, checking if this threshold is hit, and if so, go to the next or the before slide and animate it accordingly. Important in terms of RxJS is to ensure that you unsubscribe and that you subscribe to start something. So we got this, we got that. So at least the swipe should now work, I think. So after reload, I can, okay, the swipe is working flawlessly. That's good. I did make a mistake so far. Okay. So, okay, swipe is working. Now let's take a look at left and right arrow key. So again, I'm using from event. The thing about keyboard events is that they are emitted to the document element. So I'm just saying from event document, and then I have key down. And I don't want all key down events. I just want them on the left or right arrow key, but also left and right arrow would trigger my slides. Therefore, I'm using A and D here. To ensure this, I'm applying filter operator, and here I get a keyboard event. Unfortunately, this is not really well typed so far due to TypeScript restrictions. So I'm saying here, TypeScript, please shut up. It's a keyboard event. And then I can say key code equal. I always forgot if it's, I think it's key A. I'm really not sure. We'll see. And the next thing we want to do is say map to this go to previous page, which is just one less than the threshold to go to the previous page. So I will quickly check that because I'm really not sure if this is working. I'm merging this together with all the other swipe event, with all the other events because they're just behaving the same afterwards. So I have left arrow here, and I have right arrow here. Quickly copy that over. But instead of key A, I want key D. And instead of going to the previous page, I want to go to the next page. And let's see if that's working. Reload, reload, reload. Yeah, I was thinking that. Okay, let me quickly add a tab with a console log here because I'm pretty sure I just did a minor typo. Tab is actually pretty much this line of code is how you debug RxJS. So here you go. Let's see. So we have code is key D uppercase. Okay, my bad. But now with that fix, we should see a working keyboard navigation. Okay, you can't see that I'm not using the mouse anymore, but you just have to trust me. Okay, last thing is a timer. And the timer works pretty much like that we're just using the RxJS interval operator. But the thing here is, and this is actually the tricky part, the timer or the interval would start automatically and then say 5 seconds or whatever. But this would cause that if you swipe and then this 5 seconds interval happen, then it will automatically go to the next one. So you actually want to restart that interval as soon as one of these events happen. So what you can do here, and this is like a little bit of a hack, is apply take until, and you have to provide another observable. So we can just say, okay, please just take values until events happen. And the next thing that you want to do is, because take until will complete the observable, and therefore it won't restart it really, you can apply repeat when. And what repeat when is doing, it takes a notifier observable as argument, and this notifier observable will emit every time the source observable completes. So if this completes, then notifier emits. And we need to return another observable here, and as soon as this emits something, we will restart the observable by resubscribing to that. And by just returning that, we will pretty much resubscribe immediately as soon as it completes. So you can kind of think of these two lines as resubscribe when another observable emits something, in our case, the events. One minor thing that now happens is all of these observables are under the hood creating event listeners. That's how from event is working. And now we're subscribing here and here to that observable, which is not really what we want to do, because now we're registering the event listener twice. To prevent that, we can apply the share operator. And share is under the hood creating a subject instance and emitting just the values from the subject. So it just subscribes once. And yeah, I'm not really sure if it's more performant just by having 2 subscriptions on this observable, if it's more performant to store everything in the subject. I just wanted to show that trick because this happens quite often in business application, that you need to subscribe multiple times to an observable. And then you can either just manually use the subject for that and store the values there, or you can use share. Okay, but this is pretty much already how we want to have timer. The only thing now that we want to do is are 2 minor things. So we first want to say, like, okay, when this interval is emitting something, please go to the next page. And one minor thing, because it's happening automatically, instead of going one more than the last one and being stuck there or something like that, I would assume it to go to the first page. And therefore, I prepared another tiny helper method where I say this animate back to first slide. I'm amazing with naming. And I need to pass the items here again. So now, after recompiling and waiting 5 seconds, it should go to the next slide automatically. Okay, amazing. It worked. I can put my hands up to show. There you go. Because this is pretty much what I wanted to show with live coding. It's a fairly complex scenario, and the implementation is way too much to just go through that in detail. But it shows one of the strengths of RxJS, that you can extend it fairly easy and add behavior on the fly. I will do a really quick summary, because I have the feeling I otherwise might extend or overrun. So, okay, quick summary. First thing, we started with the swipe. We had a combination of touch start and milestone just to treat them equally. When you use that touch start to use that as a trigger point to say, like, okay, as soon touch start happen, please take a look at all the move gestures, because it's pretty much what a swipe is doing, like click, move, up. It's the swipe. Then this is the way we implemented touch move. We again combined touch move and mouse move to treat them equally. We applied animation frame scheduler as a minor performance streak. We ensured to unsubscribing from our observable as soon as we end our swipe gesture with the touch and or mouse up. This is the logic that is behind the delta calculation. It's not really interesting. It's not that much interesting. This is more like an implementation detail. But yeah. And the last thing we needed to do, because we don't want to emit all the values in between, just the last one from there on to check, is it bigger than the threshold or not? We apply take last. We merge them all together, just like a big group of events, just to treat them equally, the same again, and merge them together with the timer, and later on the animation. Don't forget to unsubscribe. I see this fairly often in business application when RxJS is used, that people forget to unsubscribe from observables. Otherwise, we would still have all the event listener under the hood registered, and this is really not what you want. Same goes actually for subscribing. Most of the time when I'm seeing issues with RxJS is because one forgot to subscribe. And this is also like 99% of the Stack Overflow issues and 99% of our Gitter comments like, okay, this is not working. Yeah, you forgot to subscribe. Okay. Keyboard navigation is fairly simple compared, because we already have most of the logic in place. We just need to have another trigger than the swipe. Now we want to have keyboard as trigger. And therefore, we subscribe to the key down event, checked if it's key A. The key is not really important here. We could also have used left arrow, right arrow, whatever. And then we say like, okay, we don't want to emit the event because this is not really useful. What we want to emit further on is the go to previous page constant, which is, I label it, I think here, it's just one less than the threshold, to say like, okay, if that threshold is less, go to the previous page. If the threshold is bigger, then go to the next page. And actually, just by merging it into our events observable, we're already done with this. This was pretty much everything we needed to do to make this work. Timer is a little bit more complex. So we have interval, which will wait for 5 seconds and then periodically emit every 5 seconds. Take until events says, okay, as soon as a swipe, left or right arrow observable emits something, unsubscribe from our interval, and take until underload also completes the observable first. So therefore, we applied repeat when, which is pretty much like, okay, do something as soon as the source observable completes. And then by saying, okay, if the timer event emits something, instead of having the timer, which will be 0, 1, and then periodically grow increment, we say like, okay, just emit the next page value. Again, this is just like a minor tweak to not go to like have a proper logic as soon as you hit the last slide. And this is all we need to do. Okay, this is about the live coding and plans for RxJS 7. If this was partly too quick about any parts of the implementation, feel free to ask comments. Jesus Christ. Feel free to ask questions, put some comments there. I'm happy to elaborate on that in more detail. Okay, version 7. So right now, I think we're in like alpha 1, alpha 2, something like that. So if you want to test it in your application, see what's new, we really appreciate any help with testing it properly. And we actually by now have like kind of 5 bullet points, even though in this slide there are just 4 listed. So the big thing that we are working right now is improvements that we plan for RxJS 8, including better tree shakeability and therefore reduced bundle size, but also performance improvements. This is not really that much interesting because we plan to make it as less of a breaking change. But I at least wanted to list that we have that on a to-do list. The biggest thing by far for version 7 is to improve typing. So when you're using TypeScript, you will see a lot of benefit from that. We also implemented a new creation operator, the animation frame observable, which is pretty cool. I will show that later. And we also have concat with, which is just symbolic here because we added a lot of operators which already have a static representation like concat with a concat with operator so that you can use it inside the pipe. Okay, let's see how this looks in detail. So improved typings, this is really cool. So especially when you're using Redux Observable or NGRX or something like that, you will often have inside effects some kind of logic like this with a switch map check, okay, if the user is online, please perform that HTTP request. If the user is not online, we don't need to do that. We can just return a cached value or something like that. The problem is if you have two different return values. So we have here either string or number. It used to be inferred wrongly. So before version 7, it was just inferred to, it's an observable of object. By now, we have found a mechanism to properly infer, okay, this is either an observable of string or number. This will really help you to react to those situations properly by implementing guard function or something like that. The next thing we added is very similar. So concat accepts a lot of different observables as input. And before that, it was just inferred to observable of unknown, which is saying like, okay, we don't know what's coming out. With version 7, we have fixed that so that we check every type of the observables and return a union type of that. Reduce, the same goes actually for the scan operator as well. Before that, it was inferring the return value from the accumulator function, this thing here. And if this was specified to any, then the return value of the observable was also specified to any. Even though this function 100% in any case will return a string. Version 7 fixed that and say, okay, we know this will be a string. Here you go. Okay, last thing, and this is also super cool because array filter is not supporting this right now. If you pass the Boolean constructor function to filter, the typing will get lost. And before that, it was inferred to unknown, which is not that good because filter is actually not manipulating the return value. It's just manipulating the amount of values bypassed or passed through. And therefore, we now fix that to say, okay, this is going to be an observable of number. So this is pretty much all we did for typings. In terms of animation frame observable, this is pretty cool because what's happening, that if you want to implement animations with RxJS, there were some workarounds before that, but they were all kind of hacky and also relying on implementation details. So this is the reason why we came up with this animation frames observable, and it will emit the elapsed milliseconds between each animation frame. So every time the browser is idle, this will emit something. And you can use that to implement such a tween function, for example, such a tween observable. And what's happening when you do something like that and apply that to a div, like here, and you use that to manipulate the styling of it, you can do something that looks kind of like this. And due to internet resources and streaming delays and something like that, that might not look as smooth as it looked for me, but I promise you, this is super smooth quality animation. I promise you. Yes, the last thing I want to stress is the concat with scenario. So before that, you had the creation operator, and for such a simple scenario, this is okay. So concat will first subscribe to the hello observable, and if that completes, it will subscribe to the world observable. If you have more complex scenarios where you also want to apply some operators to one of the observable, but not to the other, then this becomes fairly complex. And therefore, with concat with, if you have something like that, you can say like, okay, I want to apply all like 5 operators to the hello observable, then you can just list them before here, and everything that happens afterwards will be applied to hello and world. And therefore, the developer experience is improved for such scenarios. This is all I got of a summary. What I can really recommend you to do if you want to get deeper into RxJS, just practice a lot. Like, I have listed some examples that are really good for learning RxJS. So what you can do is just redo the same. You now know the code. I will also share a link to the slides and the code. And by redoing it, you will see, okay, did I come up with the same approach? Did I understood it properly? What's also good is like drag and drop, because it's fairly similar. What you could also do is type ahead search, which is like the RxJS 101 example. It will also be in the future inside the RxJS docs as some kind of tutorial. Also pretty cool for RxJS is long polling mechanism. So like hitting a endpoint several times and checking for some kind of status or something like that. So there are several different or a huge variety of different approaches to implement long polling, all with benefits. So, and also if you have like questions to one of those, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help implementing those if you're stuck or something like that. Here's the link to the slides. So the first one, https rxjs-practice-makes-perfect.dev is a link to the slides. And below the bit.ly link is to the source code. Where are also the slides if you're interested how I did this. Yeah, this is pretty much all I got. I'm really thankful for doing this meetup. I really appreciate it. And if you want to get in touch with me or have questions about RxJS, the best way to reach out to me is via Twitter. And I just noticed that this is not my actual GitHub handle anymore, but that doesn't really matter. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any kind of questions if you have one, but this is all I got. And I need to drink something now. You're muted.
You're muted, Gaurav. Yeah.
Really sorry for that. This happens. Yeah, so I was just saying that thank you for your time, and it was fun learning about it and knowing what we are heading towards in the future. And
Yes.
let's see if we have some questions here.
Sure.
You are again muted, Gaurav.
I'm not saying anything right now. That's why I'm muted.
Okay.
So while questions are popping up, I can kind of share what I plan for the RxJS docs because I'm super excited about that.
Sure.
So the first thing, and I kind of want to show it because it's that cool, is that we plan to improve the quality of the marble diagrams. Give me 1 second to show this because I'm so ridiculous excited about that. Okay. So, Visual Studio Code is about to start. And I hope I'm on the right branch for that. Maybe not. Let me see. Concat all.svg. Amazing. So before that, all the marble diagrams are PNG based and therefore like really ugly. I can quickly show that. If I go to rxjs.dev, concat or concat, should work. We see here, this is like not really beautiful. All the font in general is like pixely and it doesn't scale well. And so what we came up with is an SVG based approach. And let me show concat, for example. Isn't that beautiful? Like, just if you compare the font now, it's so much clearer and it's SVG based, so I can style everything. I'm so excited to have this finally out. The next thing that we plan is to have like a separate page for all the deprecations so that you can see like, okay, I don't know, the scheduler argument is deprecated. What can I do? How do I have to fix that? We also improved, or there's currently a pull request to improve the content of those documents to have it better separated in like beginner topics and advanced topics. Because right now, if we, for example, take a look at operators, there's good content out there. I don't want to take this, but when you start with RxJS, you don't have to deal with higher order observables. So just to split this better up to make like it more visible, what do I as developer really need to learn? What else? We have something more that I'm excited about, I think. Yes, and I plan to have a tutorial section, so like a basic step-to-step introduction, like, okay, you have to do this and why and so on. This is pretty much what I hope to get out with the next major release. I'm not sure if everything will be in there, but at least I will work on that so it come out soonish. Yes. There's StreamYard. The SVGs are beautiful, right?
Yes, they are indeed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good addition.
I'm so excited about those. So I think like I spent a whole week just to get everything changed to that, to have them automatically generated and everything. And it was such a pain in the ass from time to time. And in the end, it was just like more or less like adding 2 lines here and there, and then it was working. I was so frustrated.
Yeah, that's really great. So I can see Martin is saying that but how it is with concat with if you have 3-4 observable, it's going to make it so much nesting.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Gaurav, can you like pop those up on the screen? Like,
Sure.
Ooh. That's a very good question, Martina. Let's see. I don't know. Not out of my head, at least. But we can take a look at the source code. I'm just fear that I might be. No, I'm on the wrong right branch. So let's take a look. Again, sharing my screen. So we have concat all. That's not what I wanted to show. I wanted to show concat with spec. Yes, from branch. Okay, where's GitHub? GitHub. GitHub. That's slide increases. Search. Oh. Concat with. So let's see. So concat with is just spreading all the values that are coming in. So you can what you can either do with this is then say, so you pretty much have 2 possibilities. So you can either put all the observables that you want to apply the same logic to inside this concat with, just apply it to a source observable, or what you could also do is like applying concat with to one observable, then apply some other operators, and then have concat with again. There are some scenarios where I say like, okay, concat is the better approach just if you have like the completely the same logic that you want to apply to 2 observables. If you have the scenario where you want to apply operators to one observable but not the other, this is a much more straightforward approach to just use concat with for those scenarios. Did this answer the question, kind of? I hope so.
I think that will actually make it much more simpler, right? We won't be seeing such a nasty thing.
So the thing is, before RxJS 6, this was actually already possible. So you had concat as pipeable operator and concat as static operator. But this was fairly confusing because you had different imports for the same operator behaving kind of the same, but having different arguments and something like that. And with having concat with, it's at least a little bit more clear that all the normal operators are static, all the with operators are pipeable, and you have this is the idea behind that.
Right. So we do have a few students. Like apparently, there's one case, like it's being a third-party library for even if we talk about Angular or React.
Hmm?
Many students when they start with developing applications, single-page applications online, they don't get this exposure to RxJS. So for
Yes.
them, it's always like a new thing that what is RxJS and how to go about it.
Yeah.
So if there could be a very simple way how we can explain those people that what is RxJS and how we can go start.
Okay, so that's just a good. So what is RxJS? The first thing is like uh, RxJS is providing reactive programming for JavaScript. This is the whole
Right.
idea. Therefore, you need to understand what reactive programming is, and reactive programming tackles the propagation of change of infinite values. So especially for JavaScript, the best way to compare this is having an event actually. Because an event, we don't know how many occasions of this event are happening. So it can be that there is no event at all, so the user doesn't click. It can also happen that the user clicks a bazillion times. And by this propagation of change, this is pretty much what reactive programming is dealing with. I lost track.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
so
but that
this is pretty much the whole idea behind RxJS. A cool side effect of RxJS is that it handles asynchronous, synchronous code the same way, but also event-oriented, promise-based, and callback-based. So you can have all these kind of different concepts by handling it the same manner. And this is like the universal selling point of RxJS, why you should want to use it.
right. I agree.
So
sorry.
yeah. No, you're fine. But this is also the reason why I never dealt with the complexity of promises. And I never
Mhm.
probably will. Only when I did some Node.js stuff, but that doesn't really count. So because I don't want to deal with this added complexity that I have to learn about promises. I already know about callbacks. So why do I have to learn this other concept?
Right. True. Yeah. So basically, the thing that you mentioned at the start of the presentation that was really cool one that you need to think reactive first, and if you are
Yes.
able to think like that, then it's very simple. So
Yes.
what would be the like we have Vijay here who wants to ask that if what would be the what would you recommend would be the best way to get started with RxJS?
So actually, my recommendation would be like read about the basic concepts. Okay, so get from without doing some marketing for myself, but there's a talk. How was that called? A talk that I did at NG India. Everything you need to know about RxJS. Yes, and this is like really the introductory course that you need about RxJS, like basic concepts, what is an observable, what is an operator, stuff like that. But also those are the operators that you need to be aware of, that you need to know. And I think the talk is like 40 minutes. It's on YouTube. Check that out. And if you say like, okay, now I have some feeling what is an observable, then maybe go to the docs. As soon as this tutorial is out, I would recommend doing this first. And then read about certain topics that you're interested well or not feel really comfortable with. Like, for example, okay, I kind of understood how filter is working, but I don't really get how scan is working. Then read about scan in detail. This would be my go-to. And if you, as soon as you understood this basic concept, or at least have the feeling, okay, I kind of got it, but I'm not really sure, then go with either type ahead, search, long polling, something like that. Just implement something. Something to prove yourself you understood it, and I promise you there might be some flaws that you will run into, but it will help you to understand that.
Right. Implementing is a very critical part.
Yes.
Right. And also, like you have a free course on Angular Nation also. So if
Good call.
anyone,
Good call. Yes, I do. Yes, yeah. It's pretty good.
yes. So if you can join it. It's angularnation.net. So
Yeah.
if you are interested, anyone, they can have a request over there, and they can join the community. And over there, you will find a course which you can be part of.
Very good call.
Yeah. And we have another one. Parag is asking, if a person is from Angular background, how can he approach RxJS for learning and thinking part?
Okay, so please don't tell anyone that I'm saying this right now, but I would probably do something with reactive forms, maybe the type ahead example, and using reactive forms. I have several criticisms about that API, but it will at least be the most practical approach for you to get into that, because it supports the basic concept of reactive programming. I don't want to rant now about reactive forms in Angular, but leverage those, build something with that. It can also be like just a complex form in general. You will notice that by leveraging RxJS, the code gets more manageable than if you would do it with imperative approach. Every time there's some events involved or asynchrony, code with RxJS is probably more straightforward than doing it imperatively. Difficult.
Right, exactly. Even I agree. So yeah, if like one of the most basic starting point would be just try to use it in simple forms, so that like managing the inputs and all. So that could actually help, like validating the forms, and that could be like a very simple way how you can start with RxJS,
Yeah.
and then you can build upon that. That would be a better thing.
So you could also check out the code that I just showed, because it's also inside an Angular component. Yeah, it's a little bit more advanced. I'm well aware of that. So probably the first go-to would be reactive forms and
True.
ArcGIS.
Right. So Vijay is saying there is a simple tutorial called RxJS Root, which is an interactive playground.
Yes, this is also very cool. Actually, it's a dude from Germany that did that, and he reached out to me while he was developing it, and it's super cool. So it's a very gamified approach to learning RxJS. You can also check it out. I think it's RxJS-root.com, something like that.
Yes, something like that. We can search for that, and perhaps.
It's
So I think,
yeah.
And okay, so I think a couple of last questions. One is, what is the best way to go from medium level in RxJS to expert? So that's a jump from the previous one.
Oh, that's a good question. So first thing, you need to kind of differentiate what is medium level for RxJS and expert level. Because for me at least, it was pretty much like that. As soon as I got this click moment, afterwards it's like really flat, the learning curve. There's nothing more to explore pretty much. So what I personally consider expert level is scheduling. But you also have to see that scheduling is barely used at all publicly. It's used a lot within RxJS codebase, but it's not a very known concept, and you don't really need to deal with it a lot as developer. So saying, okay, I know about scheduling and therefore I'm an expert is kind of like, well, okay, how often are you using it? And I used it twice, including this demonstration where I just used it for minor performance tweaks. But this is definitely something I would consider expert level. Another thing is marble testing. Marble testing is fairly complex because you can test a lot of stuff within observables, like point of time where the subscription happens, point of time where unsubscription happens, also on inner observables and stuff like that. But for business applications, you barely need those at all, because then you want to test on a business approach, like, is it behaving the way I expected it? And you don't really care, okay, how is the operator itself behaving? So this is what I would kind of say, like, okay, define for you what you would consider expert level, because for me is as soon as I can work professionally within an reactive code base, I would consider everyone an expert. As soon as you got this click moment, because afterwards you can fairly easily will see like, oh, this is the way this operator works. This is the way that operator works. I don't know about all operators by myself, and just learning about all of them won't make me better. But probably what I would recommend is to check out the RxJS code base, because there are a lot of tiny edge cases that many people are not aware of that might happen. So what happens if you have different kind of RxJS versions in your project? There's code handling those scenarios inside the RxJS code base. What happens if I apply this operator to a hot observable? How does it differentiate from a cold observable and stuff like that? So all these edge cases that you usually don't deal with. This is probably the best way to consider yourself an expert level, just by saying, okay, I understand the way RxJS is implemented.
Right, and just quoting you again, practice makes perfect, right?
Good call. Oh, you're so amazing. Yes. You should do this talk.
Yeah, and Nimish, I see Nimish is saying something about what about typings? What is it? So I'm not sure exactly what Nimish you mean. So can you please elaborate about it? Or if Jan, you can actually get an idea of what the question would mean. So please.
What about the typings? What is it? Is it maybe that you're not aware of the concept of TypeScript?
Yeah, perhaps
that might be behind that question. So all that I said before about the typings that we improved just is useful for people that are using TypeScript, because all the ArcGIS code is leveraging TypeScript a lot. I learned a lot about typings by just checking out the code base, actually. And also my go-to TypeScript guy is Nicholas Jameson, because he's a magician with TypeScript and typings. But yeah, so if you're using plain JavaScript, then you don't benefit from that a lot. Then
right. Cool. So I think yeah, typings is defining type of your shape of it. Yep. So yeah, so I don't think we do have any other questions. So cool. And guys, if you have anything else, and if you want to connect with Jan, you can use his Twitter handle. So it's down there. So you should be able to connect with him over there. So I really want to thank him for all his time and for actually introducing us to this. And it's been a really nice having you here. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure for me. So yeah, thank you a lot for having me.
Sure. Yeah. And one more thing.
Also, we will be sharing all the links over there in the comment or maybe the description of this YouTube video, so you guys can go through it anytime you want.
Right, and also I wanted to point this down that Jan is a very big fan of open source contributions. So if you have any thoughts about it or want to ask something about it and how you can get started, so just 10 minutes before the session started, he was mentioning that if you have anything, just let me know. Then I just wire you in. So yeah, I think it's good to have professionals who are like ready to contribute and support like that. So if you have any questions regarding that or want to get started into your open source journey, so it would be like a very good thing to connect, and you'll be able to go in. Then again,
just let me know. Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry.
And other than that, if you want to know more about the events that we are actually doing, so one thing you can do is you can follow us on this handle on Twitter. Second, you can subscribe to the Youth Project channel. The Youth Project channel is basically for people who are starting to program and to inspire them to become a good professional programmers themselves. And one more thing that I want to introduce, that we are actually coming up with a global kind of intermediate to pro level society for web, and that's it's all web. It's all about web. Sorry. So me, Srashti, Siddharth, and Martina. There are 4 guys who are behind this. And if you want to attend more things regarding web, so it would be everything that we have on the web. It could be React, Vue, Angular, RxJS, and everything there. So if you are interested, then we are just starting it out, and you can learn more about it by following us over here. And we'll be sharing a lot of things on Twitter. And And last, like if you are a female and you want to learn Angular, or if you actually want to if you have someone who can actually benefit, so we have a workshop, that is NG Girls workshop, that we run. And we had a very successful run in Australia around 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we had a very awesome feedback from many people. And we are coming again to India this time, and we'll be having a India-based event. So this is the link where you can register yourself. The date is July 4th. So I'll hope that anyone who is interested and eligible can join in. It's a free of cost. It's a very fun event, and everyone who actually joins in, the mentors and even the uh, students, they actually enjoy it a lot. So it's a full 1 day virtual workshop, and you actually feel like, because I personally feel when I am attending a NG Girls conference, I don't even see a difference between a virtual and a real conference. It's so well organized. It's so awesome. So I just want you guys that if you have anyone, please, you can join in over here. So that would be the ending note from my side. Srishti, is there anything else that we are missing out? Please, you may add.
No, I think we are all good. So yeah, you guys can always like connect with us, and if you have any question regarding anything, like if you want to connect to like for any professional thing, like you guys can keep in touch with us. And if you want to come up with any related talk, like which you can share with the community, like feel free to connect with us. We are always like we can create a event for you anytime. That's fine. Yeah, yeah, all good.
Okay, yes. All right.
Cool.
Bye bye, guys. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank you,
again.
everyone.